again, everyone, to this first ever virtual announcement of the 10 most endangered historic places. Hopefully this goes smoothly, but again, it's our first time and very exciting. We're so excited that so many people are able to join us via this unique Zoom experience this morning. So I'm going to start off with just a brief introduction of Preservation New Jersey. I know many people are familiar with the organization, but as we do have some new faces, I'd like to review as well. So Preservation New Jersey is a statewide member-supported organization founded in 1978. Our members include people who are passionate about preserving the state's built history, both for its role in helping us understand the past and present, for the architectural and design value, and of course also for the economic, environmental, and tourism value of preservation. The people that are members of Preservation New Jersey include historic site managers, historic homeowners, restoration professionals, and many, many more. We're well known, and rightly so, for our annual 10 Most list that will be announced in just moments, but we also provide a number of other opportunities for education, advocacy, engagement, and connection throughout the year. If the opportunities you see here on the slide and what you hear today in our presentation excites you, I hope that you don't hesitate to reach out to us using the contact information here on the next slide that we'll also share at the end of the presentation as well. So with that said, I'm now going to turn the Zoom lens back to Courtney Mercer. Courtney is our past executive director who led this year's process. She will acknowledge our 10 Most committee, provide some background on the 10 Most program, and formally announce our 2020 10 Most Endangered Historic Places.
Good morning, all, and I just want to check you can hear me, correct? Give me a thumbs up, Emily. Can you hear me, Emily?
No. We can hear you.
Okay, well, I took the headphones out. Hopefully my daughter doesn't decide to come behind me and chat. Anyway, welcome to this year's 10 Most announcement. First, I would be remiss to not thank our wonderful 10 Most committee, who includes Janice Armstrong, Debbie Kelly, Kate Litvak, Emily Manns, myself, and Michael Mills. Apparently we're one person, according to this slide. Sorry, Michael. Matt Pizarski, Michelle Chapio, Roger Seifter, Rachel Thompson-Panic, and Penny Watson. The 10 Most Endangered Historic Places program spotlights irreplaceable historic architecture, cultural, and archaeological resources in New Jersey that are in imminent danger of being lost. The act of listing the resources acknowledges their importance to the heritage of New Jersey and draws attention to the predicaments that endanger their survival and the survival of historic resources statewide. The list, generated from nominations from the public, aims to attract perspectives and ideas to sites in desperate need of creative solution. This year marks a special milestone for PNJ's efforts to highlight and protect New Jersey's resources. We are commemorating the 25th anniversary of the 10 Most Endangered Places initiative. Over this past year, we hosted workshops and tours celebrating success stories, sites that have been saved, restored, and are once again open. The anniversary festivities culminated in a gala celebration at Newark Symphony Hall, which was on the very first 10 Most list, where we premiered Saved or Lost Forever, a mini documentary that tells the story of New Jersey's places that have been a significant part of events and periods in our state's history and discuss their importance to our collective past and the fight to rescue these historic places. The documentary focused on 3 sites recognized on the list in the past, including Camden High School, which unfortunately we lost, Romer Show Light, which is still in limbo, and the Van Wagenen Apple Tree House, which is a success story. Moving on to this year's list, several challenges face the properties on this year's endangered list, including neglect and deferred maintenance, threats incurred by redevelopment and new construction, difficulties raising adequate historic preservation funding, and the need for creative adaptive reuse proposals. 7 of the sites on this year's list are publicly owned, highlighting the government's frequent role in deferred maintenance along with the reality of limited historic preservation funds. The list also includes that sites that portray rare building types of which there are very few left, as well as a thematic listing of New Jersey's 1970s history. These two groups, those of which there are few left and those of which there are many but not yet recognized as historic, showcase how failure to appreciate unique structures, even if once ubiquitous, can lead to their loss. So without further ado, we will go through the top 10. First of which is Cranford Roundhouse. The Cranford Roundhouse in Cranford, New Jersey, Union County, is one of only 3 surviving roundhouses in New Jersey. Constructed between 1913 and 1915, the roundhouse is important as a once common but now rare building type associated with New Jersey's dynamic railroad history. Today, Cranford Township's Department of Public Works uses it as maintenance yard and storage facility. However, there's been discussion of relocating DPW, and in October 2019, the Township Planning Board recommended removing the roundhouse from its list of historic resources. Without local protections, the Township could sell the property for private development, which might lead to its demolition. The roundhouse has enormous potential for adaptive reuse that would be attractive to the town's growing population, such as artists, studio space, a small performance venue, or a brewery. No matter its future use, the preservation of the Cranford Roundhouse is critical to ensuring this unique and rare building type is not lost forever. Next, we have Elks Hall in New Brunswick, Middlesex County. Elks Hall is home to the Elks Lodge number 324. It sits proudly on Livingston Avenue, adjacent to the newly revitalized Cultural Arts District in downtown New Brunswick. Dedicated in 1926, Elks Hall is an example of classic revival architecture designed by local Highland Park architect Alexander Merchant. The site also boasts a historic Elks sculpture created by Laura Garden Fraser, a prominent early 20th century female sculptor. Elks Hall has played an important role in the civic and community life of New Brunswick for nearly a century. The Elks Lodge 324 has recently signaled plans to demolish the historic landmark before the end of the year to make way for a new building. The close proximity to the newly revitalized Cultural Arts District offers a unique, a timely opportunity to find a new compatible reuse for the Elks Lodge as part of the arts and cultural community of the city. A resolution would be fitting tribute to the Elks history of the Elks Lodge 324 commitment to New Brunswick community for the past 125 years. The Fort Lee Post Office in Fort Lee, Bergen County, was constructed as part of a New Deal program in 1938. Like many federal projects of that era, it was designed in the colonial revival style, honoring the architecture of the nation's founding. The building also boasts 4 large-scale murals by Henry Schackenberg depicting the city's history. Today, the building stands as a reminder of Fort Lee's roots, but it also faces the threat of demolition. As part of the city's redevelopment efforts, the U.S. Postal Service has agreed to relocate to a new facility. The city then plans to demolish the building and replace it with a passive park. Post office buildings have been successfully adaptively reused as offices, restaurants, or cultural and community spaces. The city should rethink its redevelopment plan to incorporate the post office intact. Next, the Futuro houses. We have 2 in New Jersey, one in Greenwich, Cumberland County, and one in Willingboro, Burlington County. The Futuro house was conceived in 1968 as a portable ski chalet by Matty Soronan, a pioneer in using reinforced plastic for construction. The Futuro structures are made of fiberglass reinforced plastic as to be light and easy to transport to remote locations. Easy to construct once on site and efficient to heat and cool. Less than 100 of these alien-like Futuro homes were built, and today they're located all over the world. Because of their durable construction and unique design, they have survived in form. As we said, there are 2 in New Jersey, in Greenwich and Willingboro. While both are in need of repair, they're still largely intact. It is imperative that these architecturally historic pieces be preserved for generations to come. Efforts should be undertaken to list them on the state and national register of historic places and develop reuse plans for the structures. Next, the Lauriston estate in Rumson, Monmouth County, is an 1870 colonial revival mansion designed by New York and Red Bank architect Leon Cumberland. It is the only residential building in Rumson listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Designed in the predominant colonial revival style of the era, the Lauriston estate is grand and includes a marble foyer and spacious entrance hall leading to a unique dual-bowed staircase, just one of many outstanding architectural features. Lauriston is currently at the center of an affordable housing settlement agreement that would allow replacement of the mansion with 16 luxury townhouses. Firstly, we believe that the mansion could be adaptively reused as part of the proposed development. Secondly, the plight of the Lauriston estate is reflective of a larger issue related to the state's refusal to actively manage its obligation to ensure the creation of affordable and safe and adequate affordable housing. P&J fully supports the creation of affordable housing and believes that Rumson should provide its fair share, but lack of a functioning Office of Affordable Housing and rules has led to haphazard implementation that is not based in sound planning. So as long as the state of New Jersey continues to allow the courts to implement affordable housing policy, P&J fears that historic resources will continue to be at risk. The Old Stone House in South Orange, Essex County, nearly hidden behind South Orange Police Station, the Old Stone House is the oldest structure in the township and possibly New Jersey. Historians estimate that Dutch settlers built the farmhouse between 1666 and 1680 when they arrived in Newark. The original house is 1.5 stories with a native rubble stone foundation. Renovations in 1877 and 1896 transformed the farmhouse into a Queen Anne's shingle-style mansion. The township of South Orange Village has owned the Old Stone House since 1953. It was vacated in 1983, though, and has suffered significant water damage and deterioration. Unable to bear the cost to restore the building, the township has tried to sell the property to no avail. Without an intervention, one of the oldest structures in the state will be lost forever. The Record Storage Building in Hoboken, Hudson County, sits at the edge of the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad rail yard. It is a 1904 three-story red brick building harkening back to the English Victorian Gothic Revival architecture. Sadly, the Record Storage Building has deteriorated to the point that the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs has called for its demolition due to safety concerns. The building's future will be determined by the New Jersey Transit Board of Directors after the ongoing Federal National Historic Preservation Act review process is complete. While the required alternatives analysis leans toward demolition or relocation, public sentiment predominantly favors adaptive reuse. With the impending Hoboken Yards redevelopment, there is no reason to believe that if the Records building is still standing, that the chosen redeveloper could not rehabilitate and reuse the structure. It's important for New Jersey Transit to stabilize the building now so it will still be standing when the redevelopment commences. The Roosevelt School in Roosevelt, Monmouth County. Jersey Homesteads, which is now known as Roosevelt, New Jersey, was established in 1933 by a New Deal initiative intended to provide relief for industrial workers and struggling farmers. Renowned architect Louis Kahn and Alfred Kastner designed the community and the school there, and painter Ben Shine completed a large mural in the school lobby depicting themes of Jewish immigration, the garment industry and labor movement, and the establishment of Jersey homesteads as a model planned community for workers. It seems likely that insufficient funding for the district due to changing school aid formula will cause the school to close in the coming years. This particular building's deed stipulates that if it closes, ownership refers back to the federal government, who has a dubious history of neglecting surplus real estate. With population shifts and the reallocation of state funding, we will continue to see school closures statewide. While it may not be feasible to maintain the structures as schools, protections must be in place to preserve them and plan for their adaptive reuse. Oops. The Derek Sutphin House in Monmouth Battlefield State Park is the park's oldest structure and witnessed some of the Revolution's most dramatic scenes. Jacob Sutphin constructed the dwelling after purchasing the property in 1718. During the Battle of Monmouth in June 1778, the farmhouse was in the midst of the action. caught in the crossfire of the biggest field military duel of the American Revolution. When Derek Sutphin died in 1796, two of his neighbors carefully inventoried the contents of the dwelling, outbuildings, and fields, providing an exceptional interpretive opportunity. The threat to the Sutphin house is immediate. It is in such severely deteriorated condition that there have been discussions of abandoning the house to demolition by neglect, so available funds can be used to maintain two nearby structures. With the 250th anniversary of the battle less than a decade away, Preservation New Jersey supports the view that the state of New Jersey should be moving to allocate sufficient funds to prepare the park and this significant home for its upcoming part in the national stage in 2028. And last but not least is the 1970s heritage of New Jersey. While the 1970s might not seem that long ago, the decade officially reaches the 50-year mark as of 2020, meaning that sites of that era will soon be eligible for listing in the state and national registers of historic places. Sites of more recent past are particularly vulnerable to demolition, as often people think that something must be much older to be historic. Highlights of this bygone era include works by internationally renowned architect Michael Graves, the father of gentle architecture, Malcolm Wells, and pioneering female architect Eleanor Pedersen. Beyond architecture, the 1970s was a tumultuous time in New Jersey, from Earth Day to legalizing gambling, to Bruce Springsteen and Mount Laurel decision. Out of this era also came cultural changes that we still feel in our society today. Now is the time to begin formally identifying, documenting, and planning for the future of significant places of the 1970s. And that is our list. Now we would like to provide an opportunity to the folks that nominated these sites to say a few words. And first, I'm going to turn off the PowerPoint in a minute, but our first participant is not on by video. So I'm going to re-show the Cranford Roundhouse images and toss it off to Tom Connolly, who will talk about this structure. And Tom, if you can unmute yourself, or I can.
I have, and Courtney, I am on video.
We can all see you.
Yep. So thank you again, Courtney, and Preservation New Jersey for including the Cranford Roundhouse on this year's list of New Jersey's 10 most endangered historic places. Again, my name is Tom Connolly. I am the principal architect at Connolly and Hickey Historical Architects, and we are an architecture firm that focuses on the preservation of historic and cultural resources of New Jersey, with a special interest in the role of transportation in shaping our communities and our cultural and physical landscapes. Roundhouses, like the one here in Cranford, were a common building type during the first half of the 20th century in an era of steam locomotives, and were used to service and store locomotives. And the building is a significant architectural and engineering resource reflective of the expansion of the American railroad system at the turn of the 20th century. So I became aware of this building, the Roundhouse, in the late 1980s. And it was recently the subject of an article in the Westfield Leader, which is a local, I guess, paper in this neck of the woods in Union County. And the title of the article was Historic Preservation Element Proposed for the Master Plan here in Cranford. And in the article, the Planning Board Chair instructed the Historic Preservation Advisory Board to remove the historic Roundhouse from the list of properties within the proposed historic preservation element. So I strongly disagreed with the Planning Board's decision, and I became concerned that the Roundhouse would be demolished to make way for housing or similar development. So, in considering the township's own record of demolishing its historic buildings, which really happened recently, namely the Roosevelt School, which was demolished in 2010, and a great trolley powerhouse building that was demolished in 2016, I kind of would say that, my fear was more than justified. The Roundhouse site, which originally consisted of the brick roundhouse structure, which is still there, the train turntable, a coal dock, a one-story office yard building, which is still on the site, was adaptively reused by the township in the 1960s for their DPW maintenance yard. The Roundhouse property is listed as a key contributing resource on the Central Railroad of New Jersey Mainline Historic District Survey that was prepared in 1999 and has been recognized as one of 3 surviving examples of a once common railroad structure in New Jersey. It is understood that this type of structure is not necessarily what is desired in today's market, but the Roundhouse, with some careful forethought and planning, could be adaptively reused again. It is long past time now for Cranford to appreciate its historical development as a late 19th century railroad suburb and to make decisions with its history in mind, which could easily begin with either continuing the building's use or planning for its adaptive reuse, therefore saving a rare example of a once popular building type with the railroads. And given the town's past decision-making with regard to the historic resources and my fear of its imminent demolition, I nominated Roundhouse for this year's 10 Most Endangered Historic Places list in order to place a spotlight on this irreplaceable historic architectural and cultural resource and draw attention to the structure's current predicaments and hopefully bring about a constructive discussion about its adaptive reuse. And again, it's really time for the township to be more aware of the developmental history and make decisions with that respect and protect rather than destroy their architectural and cultural resources and preserve this important resource. And Courtney and Preservation New Jersey, thank you again for including this on your list.
Thank you, Tom, for nominating it. Connolly and Hickley's always a good supporter of Preservation New Jersey and the 10 Most. Next, I'd like to move on. I'm going in alphabetical order here, people, so anyone who's getting ready to speak. Next is Fort Lee Post Office. Dr. Michael Puma, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks, Courtney and Preservation New Jersey for including the post office. And yeah, I don't have background in architecture. This is really out of my field, but I think it represents the sort of the unique place that the Fort Lee Post Office is. It's a place where the common everyday person goes to and in fact shapes our community. And I was going to describe, how the post office is a symbolic heart of Fort Lee, how it represents the colonial revival style, along with the beautiful Schnackenberg mural, chronicling Fort Lee's history. Also how it's located along George Washington's retreat to victory route and then connects us to our past. But then, as I was thinking, I was realizing in the past few days, it's really so much more, because if we think about the Fort Lee Post Office, it was part of the New Deal era construction efforts that were dealing with the really difficult circumstances during the Great Depression. And as I thought about this, and we're dealing with the coronavirus, and it's really on par with that period. And we don't have many memorials for the Great Depression era. What we do have is these New Deal construction projects. And for me, again, this just came to my mind in the last few days. This type of structure, it really stands as a memorial to our parents, grandparents, or for the younger generation, great-grandparents, to the adversity that they had to deal with and how they overcame that adversity during the Great Depression. And for me, it's particularly ironic that a structure that represents the sacrifices and ingenuity at the time when the U.S. was dealing with great difficulties, economic difficulties during the Great Depression, that now we're in a similar situation, and we don't appreciate the symbolic nature of the structure. So for me, I believe this Fort Lee Post Office is a testament to that New Deal era. In troubling times, how do we deal with it? We're sort of proactive, we're creative, and we're resourceful. So for me, the Fort Lee Post Office serves as that symbol, how we can deal with challenging times. There's tremendous opportunities for adaptive reuse. I mean, the current plans are, you know, so to have some sort of park area with a parking lot as well. I think we can be more creative with that landscaping and opportunities for reusing the structure as a civic center or restaurant or various other ideas. So I think there's just tremendous potential, and it would be a real shame. I know if you noticed in the slide how you see the post office and then you see the development of the modern towers, which is all fine to have new development. You know, new developments in the community are important, but we need a balance, and we need to balance preservation of our history with the new structures. And so I think there's a way to find that balance. So thank you again, Preservation New Jersey, for including on this list. I think this attention is really needed as things are moving rapidly, and so I hope this can help change the situation. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Michael. And Elizabeth pointed out to me in chat, I had my list as NB Elks and not Elks, so I did miss her in our alphabetical order, so I will bump it back to Elizabeth, who will tell us a little more about the Elks, and I'll unmute you, Elizabeth. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Saccone. I'm the treasurer of the New Brunswick Historical Society, which is a nonprofit club dedicated to the history of our city. I'm also the Facebook page manager for the organization. In that guise, I ran a Facebook poll based on hearing that the Elks Hall would be torn down within the year. 90% of our respondents requested that we step in to attempt to save the building, not just the elk sculpture out front that they always intended to preserve. Because of that poll, Preservation New Jersey found out about our desire to save the building, and I was contacted by them to submit an application to the 10 Most list on behalf of the people of New Brunswick who'd like to see the building preserved. The building is an iconic element in the New Brunswick skyline. Designed by local architect Alexander Merchant, it has housed Lodge number 324 since it was built in 1926. Many prominent citizens of New Brunswick have been members over the years, including our current mayor, the Honorable James Cahill. Because of its prominent place in local history, we believe that the Livingston Avenue Historic District should be expanded to include the Elks Hall, thus offering protection to the building under the National Historic Preservation Act. Since the district ends on the adjacent block of Livingston Avenue, this level of expansion would not be difficult. We hope that the publicity this nomination affords will let us show the Elks how much the city of New Brunswick cares about them and their place in our community, and makes them realize how much interest there is in saving the building. I just want to thank everyone with Preservation New Jersey for accepting our nomination to the 10 Most list and helping us to encourage the preservation of the Elks Hall. And I just want to point out one thing. When I said that 90% of our respondents felt that the Elks building should be saved, I just want to point out that, as other people have said to me, this is the first time in the history of New Brunswick that 90% of the people have agreed on anything. And that being said, we really would like to save this building, and we hope that having the publicity from Preservation New Jersey will encourage the Elks to work with us to do so. So thanks again.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We hope so too. I know, for one, I went to the Lauriston school, so I have some memories of doing events at the Elks Lodge. I think many people who went to Rutgers do as well. So I think you have a broader outside of New Brunswick interest in this one too. Next, we have the Futuro houses, which Janice Armstrong, Historic Preservation and Heritage Cultural Consultant with Des Bertlin Associates. If you're on. Yep.
I'm here. All right. Well, I just like to say, I grew up, my dad was an architect here in New Jersey. So I grew up living in a 1970s, 60s, 70s designed house. And I really appreciate the architecture of that time. And the Futuro houses are just such a unique kind of architecture, if you want to call that, and they really should be on the National Register. I think the fact that they are portable, they're durable, and so they're going to be around for a long time. And I don't want to see them go into the junkyard. I think somebody out there has an idea of a reuse for them. I think it's just, it's your imagination what they could be used for. And we're just hoping that if we put these on the register, and somebody will come along and come up with a good reuse. It could be a vacation home, and actually that's what they were originally designed for, to be vacation homes, or an office, or a classroom, or an Airbnb, or and actually the one that's in South Jersey there, it was originally at Morey's Pier as part, in Wildwood, as a ticket booth for one of the rides. So somebody out there has an idea, and hopefully if we get them on the register, it will help save them. So thanks.
Thank you, Janice. Next, we have Katie Johnson from the Save the Lauriston Estate group. There, Katie?
Sorry, I've been texting back and forth with Chris Weir. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today. His parents were the ones who restored the building in the 1970s. So he's going to try to watch virtually off of Facebook Live. So just want to give a little shout out to him. It really is just quite an honor that the Lauriston Estate has been considered for this. You know, it's a shame that in New Jersey these days, there's such a battle for affordable housing, and that historic homes are being used as pawns essentially in the affordable housing issue. And you know, in Rumson, we've actually created an organization called ROSA for a creative solution for affordable housing. And that really, you know, came out of the fact that this estate is planned to be demolished, and it's very sad. I live down the street from it. I'm just a resident who started a Facebook page to save the house. You know, when I first heard that it was going to be demolished, I immediately started the Facebook page, which now has over 500 people following it. So I think they're going to be very excited to hear about this award today. You know, Lauriston was home to one of the local council members. It was, you know, refurbished in the 70s by the Weir family. They're Jersey Shore people who came in and would take old homes in the 70s and, you know, instead of knocking them down, they would painstakingly restore them. So, you know, the fact that you guys have recognized it is truly amazing. And, you know, with the Rumson affordable housing issue, we're hoping we can save the house. So thank you.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you all for bringing it to our attention, because that one was slipped by. Didn't get much press coverage, so thank you for letting us know. Next, we have Bryn Dowds is going to talk about the Old Stone House. Bryn is from the South Argent Historical and Preservation Society. I'm going to unmute you. I got you, Bryn.
Oh, okay. Got myself at the same time there. So, so thank you so much for recognizing us. Of course, it's a mixed blessing since the site has to be endangered to make the list. The Old Stone House is one of the oldest buildings, if not the oldest building that's still standing in New Jersey. And so we're really kind of excited to have it here in South Orange. But of course, when you say oldest building in the state, you don't immediately think of a Queen Anne style house. You kind of, especially when it's named Old Stone House, you kind of have this image of stone. But of course, we've almost everyone here has been talking about adaptive reuse, but this is not an idea that's brand new. And a stone house, back in the 1680s, was a very substantial structure. Even if it wasn't huge, it was very substantial because almost everything would have been built of wood. And so as the owner's needs evolved, I mean, you can drive all around the state and you see farmhouses that, you can see, oh, there's the original farmhouse, and, there they added a wing, and here they added another wing. It's the same thing with the old stone house. They expanded, I guess what in the, over the, in the 1700s and 1800s, and eventually it just kind of, covered all the house that was there. But they didn't knock it down. They used that stone walls to support the whole house. Now, I guess, it's been, the house has been owned by the village or by the Board of Education since 1953. And, as we're all aware of municipal budgets, preservation of a building, and I guess it was the building was last used it's been vacant since 1983. And so the village has, not been particularly interested in taking care of this building. So we're really, as a historical society, we're very interested in preserving the building, but, we don't have, the funding that it would take to, take it over and preserve it ourselves. So, we're just kind of excited by the recognition that you're giving the site, and, and the opportunity to, kind of, I guess just, make people around the state aware of this site. And let's see, I'll do a shameless plug here with, anyone that has an interest, please contact me at Old Stone House at it's sohps.org, South Orange Historical Preservation Society.org. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bryn. We hope it works. Next, we have Terry Francis with Hoboken Responsible Development Task Force to talk about the record storage building. I know I saw you, Terry.
Good day. Let me thank Preservation New Jersey for providing a focus on the state's historic treasures and for emphasizing the cultural and economic value of saving and enhancing our historic properties, and for throughout the year, and certainly today, bringing much needed attention to resources we might quickly lose. Once gone, these cannot be replaced. You're again shining a bright light on 10 very deserving sites and themes. Our nominee and nomination was a group process. Our group is involved in analyzing redevelopment efforts, and because this building is within the Hoboken Yards, it is subject to quite a bit of citizen review, including what's going to happen, not just with historic structures, but the scale and the uses, the transportation structures in and around Hoboken Terminal. So we have been involved with Hoboken Terminal since 2008. I want to thank you for including Hoboken Lackawanna Records Building on this year's list. It was built in 1904 by the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad, and it is the oldest structure within the historic Hoboken Terminal area. It features elements of a medieval fortress and references to English, Victorian, Gothic Revival architecture. For those arriving to Hoboken by train, it stands as a greeting. For those heading south and east on Hoboken's sidewalks and streets, it ties our historic downtown area with the crucial transportation hub. Our records building could be a vital part of the upcoming Hoboken Yards complex if it is stabilized soon. We look forward with adaptive reuse to a new life and vitality for this unique structure. The efforts of many community and preservation activists continue. An important virtual community stakeholder meeting was initiated by our mayor and the city of Hoboken last night, and it had a community survey element attached. And most of the people responding to the survey prefer adaptive reuse to demolition. The Responsible Development Task Force and Hoboken Quality of Life Coalition have urged implementation of the working adaptive reuse alternative. Just yesterday, a group of experts and advocates took our message to the Board of New Jersey Transit, the current property owner. Happily, the Records Building has a large and growing fan base. Many, many thanks for bringing additional attention to this beloved structure and hopefully to a new life for the Records Building. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And Preservation New Jersey is one of the stakeholder groups, part of the Section 106 review for this one. And it's part of the listing on our website. You can see our letter to New Jersey Transit related to supporting the adaptive reuse of this one as well. And so that leaves us, last but not least, our New Jersey's 1970s architecture. We have Michelle Richapio from Doko Momo US, who's going to speak about that one. You're still there, Michelle.
Okay. Hi, I had to unmute myself, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi. So yeah, my name is Michelle. I work for Doko Momo US. Doko Momo US is a national nonprofit that is dedicated to preserving modern architecture, roughly 1930s to 1980s. And when we were first incorporated in 1995, it was a difficult argument then to even make about preserving sites that were from the 1950s. And I think a lot of people here are probably familiar with the different types of arguments that have happened over the years about preserving buildings that people may not consider to be, that they like them aesthetically. And that was a fight that we really had to go through, where now mostly we're at a point where, especially since a lot of these buildings are now over 50 years old, they can be considered historic and people are recognizing the significance of them. So now we're sort of at that point, now that it's 2020, the 1970s are turning 50, the year 1970 is now 50 this year. So it's really time that we start identifying and documenting and thinking about what it is in New Jersey that represents that time period that's important and significant, that we want to make sure gets preserved, and to start planning for that now. So I'm really thankful that Preservation New Jersey is recognizing the era of the 1970s and, hopefully sending a message to the, not just the general public, but it's really that the preservation community needs to get behind this and to really start thinking about the 70s as being historic, because they will pretty soon be over 50 years old. And there are a lot of really important things that happened in New Jersey in the 1970s. When I first started thinking about listing this on the 10 most list, I was thinking what was in the 70s in New Jersey, what's significant, and there really is a lot there. So I think it will be fun to explore what there is and what we need to preserve. And again, thanks to Preservation New Jersey for including this on the list, and including the other modern sites, the Futuro House and the Roosevelt School and all that on the list as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. And I fibbed, she was not last but not least. I missed the Roosevelt Public School. We do have two speakers there. First, Michael Tickton is the Roosevelt Borough historian. I just unmuted you, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on behalf of the entire Roosevelt community, I'd like to thank PNJ for joining us and recognizing the historic and artistic importance of the Roosevelt Public School, and the Sean mural and the other works of art that are preserved there. With your support, we hope to increase public awareness of the need to keep our school, which is the heart of our community, under the control of the school and municipal officials who will continue to do their best to preserve it as the cultural treasure that it is for all of us, for all the people of New Jersey, and as a tribute to President Roosevelt and to the New Deal, and as a monument to the New Deal and the continuing relevance, which is more apparent to us every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. And we also have the superintendent and principal of the Roosevelt Public School here, Mary Robinson.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's Mary Robinson Cohen, and it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the Board of Education and myself. And I would like to thank you for the historic designation, and as well to Michael Tickton, who's one of our board members, for nominating us. Roosevelt was started as a community school, and it continues to be a community school until this day. We have 50 local students, and we take 30 students from outside our district. And our board extends the invitation via the choice program to districts as far away as Trenton and as close as our neighbor East Windsor and Millstone. It's really open to everyone. And I'm proud to say that in my tenure, I've been there 7 years, we have been listed as the top elementary school in Monmouth County. So it continues as a community school. When it was started, memorials were held there, weddings were held there, and we still do the same. And almost everyone's birthday party is held in the school. I invite you to visit both the Morven exhibit, which centers on the Roosevelt community, and to come to visit the school to see the mural and to see the building that was done by Kahn. That's a tough thing for me to say as a chief school administrator in these days of security, but I do believe it's a treasure. So I certainly, if you call and you want to come, I personally make it available for you to come in, because I feel that I'm twice blessed. This is my second building that actually I lived in a dormitory that was done by Louis Kahn when I was in college. And then when I accepted this job, I just adore his work, and the Sean mural just makes it extra special. So thank you again for the nomination, and thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank all of you. We had, at peak, I think we had like 79 people on this Zoom, which shows that you all support historic preservation, and we really, truly appreciate your support, all of you who nominate every year and participate in this, and it seems y'all like the virtual. I don't think we've ever had 79 people at a real life announcement before. So with that, please spread the word. We'll get it all out. We're gonna get each of your individual sites up daily on social media, plus the broad announcement has already gone out for all 10 sites. Please share widely. We will continue to share widely, and we expect you to get good press that will hopefully help to preserve these sites. So with that, I just have to share my screen so that the last slide that ends up on the YouTube video is our information. Without further ado, thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, thanks.
Yeah.